In this lesson, we're going to talk about liens, money encumbrances. That's what a lien is, a money encumbrance. And there are actually two categories of liens. There are the involuntary liens and then the voluntary liens. And first, let's take a look at the involuntary liens. By involuntary, we mean placed on the property without your permission. For example, taxes, property taxes are an involuntary lien. They're also a specific lien. So we categorize property taxes as a specific involuntary lien. What do we mean by specific lien? If you own 10 pieces of property, do you get one tax bill for all 10 properties, or do you get 10 separate tax bills? The answer is you get 10 separate tax bills. Why? Because each individual property has taxes levied against it. So a specific lien is one which is levied against an individual parcel of property. Property taxes, what are called government assessments or special assessments. Mechanics liens, contractors liens in other words. And then HOA assessment liens. All of these are specific liens and they're considered to be involuntary, in other words, placed by some action of law. You did not invite them onto your property. Another type of involuntary lien is a general involuntary lien. A general lien is a lien that is not placed against the specific property, but is placed against the individual. It's placed against you or me, right? And therefore attaches to all that we own, both real and personal property. And the two general liens that we'll talk about are judgments and income tax liens. So these are general involuntary liens. If you have a judgment levied against you by the court, let's say you were in a business with a partner and you and your partner had a falling out and he sued you and he won a judgment against you, that judgment attaches to you and therefore kind of filters down or becomes a cloud, a lien, not just on any particular property you own, but on all of your assets, both real and personal. So that's what a judgment is, a court decision against an individual, a monetary decision. And that judgment establishes its priority on real property based on the order in which it was recorded. We'll see an example of this in just a few minutes. Now, the concept of execution or execution of a judgment, we're not talking about something out of The Godfather here. What we're talking about, this term execution, means the process of going about collecting on the judgment. So the judgment creditor, once they have the judgment, can go ahead actually and garnish your wages or try to force the sale of some of your personal property, as well as foreclose on the real estate. The next lien, general involuntary lien, is an income tax lien. So this deals with both IRS and the Arizona government. If you don't pay your income tax, the government can place a lien against you, and therefore that lien attaches to everything that you own. That's why it's called a general lien. Recording of an IRS or Arizona income tax lien establishes the priority. Now what that's really saying is IRS liens have no special priority over other liens. As we will learn, taxes always have number one, assessments always have number two priority. IRS liens and judgments always fall in the order recorded. Now, I mentioned voluntary liens. The three voluntary liens that we're going to talk about are mortgages, trust deeds or deeds of trust, and land contracts, but we're not going to talk about those in this lesson. When we get into other lessons specific to Arizona, we're going to get into mortgages, deeds of trust, and land contracts individually. So let's wait till then. Now, in your material there, you have this little chart, and this may help you remember. The specific liens, the involuntary liens, are property taxes, government assessments, mechanics liens, and HOA liens. The general involuntary liens are judgments and income tax, and they're levied against the person and therefore attached to all of that person's assets. The voluntary liens are always specific because you voluntarily mortgage your property. That's a mortgage, a deed of trust, or a land contract, And again, we'll talk about those in another lesson. So let's take a minute and talk about recording and lien priority. And the basic rules that you want to remember is that the priority of a document is determined by the docket and page or the sequence number of that document at the county recorder's office. The exceptions to this are property taxes are always number one. Property assessments, special assessments, government assessments are always number two. And mechanics liens, as we'll learn, get a special priority. They actually jump back in time to when the work began, and that's when they establish their priority. So let's take a scenario here. Let's say you own three properties, a green and a yellow and a red property. And the green property has $5,000 in taxes on it. The yellow property, property B, has $8,000 in taxes and also has a $100,000 first mortgage on the property with the bank. And property C has $1,000 in taxes, but you also had some work done on that property that the contractor was not paid for, and the contractor placed a $7,000 mechanics lien against it. So let's take a look at what happens if you own these three properties with those existing liens, and then you go out and you borrow some more money or some other things happen to you. So let's say you've got a friend Joe who's got some extra money and you want to borrow some money from Joe, and on 8/23 you borrow $70,000 from Joe. But Joe is a little slow and doesn't actually get down to record his lien for a few days. And actually, you know Sue. Sue's a good friend as well. And you go to Sue and you say, Sue, I'd like to borrow $25,000 from you. And Sue's a pretty smart lady, so she decides to do a title search and doesn't see any other lien on the property except the property taxes. And these are only on the green properties now. All right, and in that circumstance, on 8/24, she lends you $25,000. And Sue gets down on the 25th and records her mortgage lien on the property before Joe does, and Joe records his on the 26th. Question, who's going to be in first position, who's in second position? Well, take a look at the docket and page number. A docket is a book, and every day the recorder opens a brand new docket, a brand new book electronically. And so the lower the docket number, the earlier that lien was recorded on the property. Now, if it's the same docket number, then the lower the page number, the earlier that that document was recorded. But see here we have Sue recording her lien at docket 12-324, page 765, whereas Joe waited till the next day and his docket number is 12-325 at page 321. So who's in first position? Who's in second position on the green property? It's Sue's in first with her $25,000 lien, and Joe's in second, even though he loaned you, the property owner, the money earlier. Well, we're not finished, because what's happening here is you get a judgment against you. For some reason, maybe you were in a car accident and didn't have enough insurance, and the other person sued you and you lost, and they got a $68,000 judgment against you. That judgment, when it's recorded now, remember it's a general lien, it goes against all of your assets, so once recorded, it attaches to all three properties. Well, still not finished, because you didn't pay your taxes a while back, and IRS comes up on September 29th and places a $9,000 income tax lien against you. Guess what? That's a general lien as well. It attaches to all of your properties. So now the lien priorities, based on the order in which recorded on your green property, the $5,000 in taxes, always number one. Sue's mortgage, first mortgage, we call it a first mortgage even though it's really behind the taxes. Joe's is a second mortgage, the judgment lien, and then the IRS lien. And the others you can see there for yourself. So keep in mind, lien priority is generally determined by the order in which recorded, the exceptions being property taxes number one, general assessments, meaning government special assessments number two, and then mechanics liens, as we'll learn in another lesson, have the special ability to jump backwards in time. So that's our discussion on liens.